Welcome back. This is video 2 in a multi-part series about how to get started in FPV. This video is going to be talking about setting up a radio with your FPV simulator of choice. Now, I'm going to go ahead and use the Steam game called FPV Logic. It's a newer game that I like a lot, actually. And if you were to Google search it, it's the first thing that comes up if you're looking for it. It's $19.99, pretty cheap, and it's actually very easy to install. So once you go to store.steampower.com, go ahead and install Steam, sign up for an account. It's free, and then you're just going to go to your store here and buy the game and download it. It's installed on my PC here, and I've got the game ready to go. So once you download it, you just click play, and let's fire it up. All right, so before we do anything, we're going to go over here to controller. And right now we don't have a controller connected because I have not physically connected it yet. So I've got a USB-C cable right here, and it just on my radio plugs in down here. And now it's asking me which option do I want to choose. And the first option on many of these radios is the first one, USB joystick. You're just going to click enter. And it's going to ask you if you want to turn off the RF signal in your radio. It just turns off the transmission. So we're going to hit enter again. And now our controller is connected as an actual joystick. So we see it right here, TBS joystick. Boom. And we might have to go through a calibration stage here. Let's see. Please move the stick and switch to the maximum range, then click the done button. Okay. We're just going to give it all accesses here. And we'll see if how that worked here. We've got roll, left and right. We've got pitch, forward and back. Yaw, right and left. And we need to, I have a trick switch on mine here, but we have throttle. So we've got our stick movements. So that's excellent. And then for reset, I'm going to set this as, let's see what button. So that's number 7. I'm looking up here. This seems to be number 7. So I'm going to go ahead and set this to button 7. And that should give me the reset function. All right, so let's try it. I'm going to click save. Back. Free flight. Super easy. Then you choose what map you want to work with. I'm going to choose something, yeah, let's just do factory. Next. Now here you can set up your quad. Now, I've been using the F5A, the 5FA. It seems to be the closest to what I fly in the real world. And that's kind of a really important factor when you're getting into the simulator, is that you want to fly whatever it is that you're going to be flying in here. You want to be as close to the real thing that you will own in real life as possible, because then you're lowering the threshold between the sim and real life. All right, so we're going to go ahead and click on drone setup. We'll just take a look here. Nothing fancy at all. These are all my settings. I've got my rates in here too. I'm using KISS rates. You can use whatever the default is. It's really just about getting started, and you can mess with all this stuff later. You can find your rates. There's videos on how to find rates, and you can work your way there. So we're just going to click back now, and we're going to go for a free flight. So we're just going to go through the basics of takeoff, flying around a little bit, and landing. So we're going to give it a little throttle, and we're just going to get used to how much throttle it takes to actually lift the quad. Because you can see I dip it down to a a certain point here and we're losing altitude. So we just want to figure out where the altitude gain is and where we start losing altitude and what it takes to actually just kind of lock it in as much as possible. So we kind of have like a hover going on. Not perfect. And what you're going to start to do is you're going to just use the pitch here. So forward on this right stick is pitch, and you're just going to give it the smallest amount of pitch so you can move forward, and then you're going to pull it back so you can stop yourself. I'm just going to go to another area here. So forward, back, a little more throttle just to keep our altitude. A little more throttles to switch directions. And I'm going to mix in a little bit of yaw. And yaw is this left stick, left to right. That's your yaw. And that's really, as you can see, it just kind of spins you around. As opposed to the right stick, which is going to actually dip the quad over. Same with pitch. So if you were to pitch forward, that's how you end up going upside down and crashing. Is you're just giving it a little throttle and you're just getting used to it. That's all this is about. We're just getting used to basic flight. So you can play with the throttle and you kind of mix them all together. And that's how you end up with these beautiful shots that people are able to get. Because it's just a very slow and delicate movement that you're trying to get. And you're still getting used to how the sticks react and how everything feels. Because everything's going to feel differently for everybody else. And you kind of have to figure out what it is that your fingers naturally want to do. Because some people just don't have the speed, the natural speed, to move quickly. Some people like to move slower, and that's perfectly okay. And, you know, I'll say that this sim, in my current setup, it feels a little fast, even for me. So I would probably work on lowering my rates down and getting them to something that's a little more manageable. But I'm also not flying how I usually fly. So there's that. All right, so we've got our yaw, we've got our throttle, we've got our roll and pitch. And really all I want you to do is practice doing this. Practice turning, practice your cornering. When you're going into a corner, you're going to need to throttle up a little bit. So you're just going to turn and throttle to kind of push yourself through. And then just start mixing things together and see what it takes. All right, so let's go for a landing. So when you want to land, you're basically going to want to come to a complete stop and a hover. And you're going to just very slowly drop your altitude. You can always throttle back up, so you don't want to crash it, even though we're in a sim. Doesn't cost you any money, but let's practice, right? So we're just going to bring it to a hover, and we're just going to bring it down to that threshold where we're losing altitude. And there you go. That's it. It's very simple. And you just stick the landing. And you'll crash a million times. But that's exactly why we're doing it this way. Because before you buy a drone, you want to be at least somewhat proficient. Because everybody crashes. Even the pros crash. They crash all the time, and that's how you get good at pretty much anything. Is you need to be willing to push yourself to your limits to get better. So that means crashing. And if you can do the crashing in this, you're going to save yourself a ton of money in parts. And you're going to actually learn that you can crash delicately. Like there's a way to crash without smashing every single piece of your drone. And that just involves knowing when to disarm as I crash, knowing when to disarm, and just there's an art to it, and you just got to feel it out. So I'm bumping into stuff left and right here. All right, anyway, that's going to wrap up this video. Stay tuned. I'm going to have another video coming out in this playlist. And if you haven't yet checked it out, I've got a first video where we kind of just talk about radios and how to select the best radio for you. I'll catch you guys on the next video very soon.